This is Tech Tuesday, where we shine the spotlight on a trending theme in the world of technology and gain a better understanding of where trends are leading in the world of tech investment. This is Tech Tuesday, presented by the Canadian Securities Exchange. Thank you to everyone for joining us live today for this week's edition of Tech Tuesday. Today's unique session, Gowling Public and Private Company Showcase, presented by the CSE, the Exchange for Entrepreneurs and the world's fastest growing small and mid-cap stock exchange for the past 15 years. We are pleased to have three companies: Stephen Frey, Director of Research Services from Aquanty; Ofer Vicus, CEO and co-founder of Aduro Clean Technologies, Inc., and Sean Thompson, CEO, co-founder of Psigryph. Tom Hunter, partner at Gowling, is this week's moderator, and this represents today's lineup. But before we get into the housekeeping, we have a quick word from this week's sponsor. Without Mert Guller and Purves Redmond, none of this would have been possible. Over to you, Mert.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Barrington. We're real excited to be part of this. Purves Redmond is a Canadian-based insurance brokerage. We have offices across Canada. We're experts in tech. The biggest issue right now in technology is cybersecurity. The insurance marketplace, the claims, the risks are really, really challenging. So we've got a great team with significant expertise in cybersecurity and the tech industry in general, including digital assets. We've got a phenomenal expert who knows a lot about digital assets. And we do a lot of work with the Canadian Securities Exchange. We love you, Barrington, and we're really proud and excited to be part of this today.
Our objective in running Tech Tuesday is twofold. First, for companies to gain visibility and traction on an accessible platform. The second is to inform capital markets players, participants, and investors about the types of companies in the tech space, while also providing new knowledge of what is happening within Gowling's tech community. For you as attendees, we do ask that you share ideas, leads, possible funding, and feedback with our presenters. You may even have a lead or strategic partnership for them. You can find their contact information in the profile box located just on the right-hand side. And with respect, we might refrain from giving investment advice as they are truly experts in their particular fields, and please do not treat our presenting companies as targets for services. Some additional housekeeping matters. If images aren't clear or pictures are incomplete, check your bandwidth, refresh your screen, call your IT, or try a different platform, as we are broadcasting from YouTube, LinkedIn, and AirMeet. Please note our disclaimer. This presentation is for information purposes only and is not a solicitation to make an investment in either shares or debt or to buy and sell stock. We make no representation about any of these companies. If you are interested in the investor pitch, please connect with the companies directly in order to get detailed information. Each company will have about 5 minutes to do their presentation. After all the companies have finished, we will move on to the Q&A. Today, we have our presenters, Stephen Frey from Aquanty, Ofer Vicus from Aduro Clean Tech, and Sean Thompson from Psigryph. Next up, Ofer Vicus. Ofer Vicus is the founder and CEO of Aduro Clean Technologies, Inc., with over 15 years of experience in developing and marketing innovative technologies and processes in Canada and abroad. He is the passion behind Aduro and responsible for building its research and business team. He has extensive knowledge in alternative approaches for petrochemical processes with a focus of limiting environmental impacts of the traditional chemical and petrochemical industries. He has distinguished himself through his ability to bring ideas to reality with advanced academic research, strong intellectual property foundations, and support by government programs and industry partners. Over to you, Ofer.
Yes, hello, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to present the company, and it's relevant to the Agritech session. My name is Ofer Vicus. I'm the CEO of Aduro Clean Technologies. Aduro developed a chemical recycling platform that has a unique properties and capabilities, but has a particular advantage to the agricultural sector. Well, with the agricultural sector, and this is based on the research that just been done recently. The farmers are using about 60,000 tons of plastic waste in total in Canada, and that pretty much point into two major problems that I think Aduro can provide solutions to. The first is that most of the large-scale operation, it's just not enough for them. So this is for the whole of Canada. And so any large-scale operation will need to cover the whole, you need to fly garbage from everywhere in order to solve something or to do something with it. The second is, which is the plastic pollution when it comes when it comes from a sector, it's actually very unified and it's very unique. And what happened is that the farmers are basically sending it without solutions straight to the landfill, and by this contaminating it. And so not just that now you had a unified product that you can use to, but immediately when you send it to the landfill or somewhere else, you just amplify the problems and putting your waste into the landfill stream. Well, if you look on the left, you'll see that most of the process capacity that you see by the average traditional approaches is fairly large, and Aduro is very, very small. And not just that it's very, very small, it can handle those agriculture's waste beautifully. And it has unique properties there where we can, and I'll show you immediately, where it turns this plastic waste into some kind of a material that can be used again to the advantage of agricultural farmer of plastic product, e.g. circularity. Well, this is on the left, you'll see that most of the plastic waste that agricultures or farmers are using are made from the top three families of polyethylene, polypropylene, and polystyrene. And if you look at this, if you will, process, just a sketch out of a process, you will see that products are made from some kind of an oil through an ethylene cracker. From that material, you are making plastic product. Those plastic product ends up in the form of bale wrap that agriculture use. And now, when you send it back to the waste stream, it becomes an agricultural waste. Well, Aduro can turn this waste and process it into an oil that later could be turned back to a material that could be used as a new plastic. And that is somewhat of the answer to circularity. Only the difference is that Aduro will do it in a much smaller scale than anyone else in the market will do it at a higher efficiency. And so the capability of the system to be scattered around in different territories and avoid the material to be sent into the landstream and be, adding negative cost, but rather turn it into something valuable closer to the place where it ends up as a waste is a huge advantage. And if you think of that as a concept, then we have an answer to the agricultural farmers. And so we turned that into a joint program with an organization that is doing or collecting waste for the last 10, 15 years, I think, Switch Energy in Ontario. And we are set to open a pilot and to work with Switch Energy on one hand on the collection program, and then delivering all this waste into the Aduro site. And again, it should be in a very localized organization. And from this point, we will turn it immediately into something valuable, and we will ship it into a customer that will see it as a high value product we can sell. At the moment, with Switch Energy, we are preparing our small scale unit. We're learning a little bit more about the product, its contamination, and we're building solution. And fast forward, we will build this pilot with Switch Energy and demonstrate the capabilities. Should we do that, you can later scale it up to different locations in different territories across North America and generally across the world. So this is the first stage that Aduro is doing in order to prove that it can answer to a sector. And I mentioned before that Aduro's capability is to answer to different types of product where we see things based on sectors. And this is just one sector that we can address. And if you do that, then basically you can do other sectors as well. And I'll give you food packaging could be an example, or other sectors could be used as well. And when you do that, you're basically starting to move the waste from the waste stream and turn it immediately to some kind of a high value product closer to the place where you are producing this waste. I'll just show you a little bit about our intention and business model. This is where I mentioned the small scale at 25 tons. So in a small scale scenario, this is our first commercial unit. You can see that we are a licensing based technology, and so we operate with the intention of licensing the technologies to user. In the case of Switch Energy, we will probably own it. But fast forward across the world, this will be our business model. And then you can see that 25 tons per day is about 8,500 tons a year. And remember, in the Canadian sector, the farmers are using only 65 tons collectively. And so it's a very small unit. And if we will be short in bringing some material, then there was no problem to add some more material into it to fill the gaps of it. But on the right, you can see that we are producing a material that is a commodity. It has a higher value product such as naphtha, kerosene, diesel, or material that could be sent to a process to produce new plastics. And on the right, you can see, more or less how much Aduro is intending to earn out of this licensing. So small scale unit, very effectively, very efficient, higher yield, lower energy, and the return is fairly high. And all of this embedded with, of course, the environmental benefit that the technology is carrying with it, because as soon as you do this operation, you're saving a lot of the negative costs. First of all, you're avoiding it from the waste stream. You're reducing your all of this sorting that otherwise you would need. You're reducing transportation. You're reducing a lot of capital costs in comparison to anyone else that has been doing it so far. And the last slide that I want to show you is basically our path forward. In the operation with the Switch Energy is basically a pilot scale where we intend to demonstrate the technologies. But once achieved, we intend to demonstrate the technologies to other sector. And I mentioned that Aduro can work on a unified product, but also on a mixture of product, and that is the other advantages. So Aduro can compete on large scale mass production of processes, only that it will be very efficient. And so within the next 2 years, we intend to build this marketing program, and we intend to bring customers into our site to show some demonstration. And by us doing so, we allow the customer to introduce himself into the capabilities or unique capabilities of the technologies. Fast forward, those customers expect to turn it from maybe a pilot and testing into commercial path. At this point of time, and the business model that we've been building right now is only based on the maybe 13 engagement that we have in the last 10 months. We are very new, and going forward, as we move forward into the future, there'll be more engagement with customers. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much.
Stephen Frey. Steve is the Director of Research Services at Aquanty, Inc. and an adjunct assistant professor in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences at the University of Waterloo. He received a PhD in 2011 in Earth Sciences at the University of Waterloo with focus on agricultural water management. Currently, he is heavily involved with developing physics-based modeling tools to quantify short and long-term hydroclimatological risks. Without further ado, over to you, Steve.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Frey. I'm the Director of Research Services at Aquanty Incorporated in Waterloo, Ontario. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our company and how it's engaged in the agricultural sector. So Aquanty was founded in 2012 as a spinoff from the University of Waterloo with the primary intention of commercializing the Hydrogeosphere software platform. And Hydrogeosphere is a simulator that predicts water resources movement across the land surface and through the subsurface. As of April 2022, we have 22 expert staff and a number of support staff. and we're heavily weighted on the research end of the spectrum with 12 PhDs and 4 MSc level researchers on the team. We have a growing repertoire of water resources management technology and associated intellectual property. Our staff are leaders in the field of water resources management and recognized around the world. So at Aquanty, we apply our technology in the agriculture sector on a number of fronts. We predict water resources as it pertains to food production. So things like irrigation water management, predicting when irrigation needs to occur, predicting crop yields as a function of climate predictions. That's how we're interacting with food production. Our simulators are used to predict drought, extent and intensity and occurrence. And we're also on the flip side of the drought, we're looking at flood risk. So we're predicting flood intensity, magnitude and occurrence. And we're also looking at health aspects of water management in the agricultural systems. So we look at human health risks and agricultural ecosystem health risks associated with agricultural water management. So Hydrogeosphere is a groundwater surface water simulator that tracks the movement of water through the surface channels, through the soil profiles as soil moisture, and then through the groundwater system. And it's one of only a handful of simulators available globally that couples the movement of surface water, soil moisture, and groundwater in a single coupled simulation. And for that, it's a very unique product. It's been in academic development for upwards of 20 years before Aquanty was formed. And since Aquanty was formed, we've really focused on pushing the software technology and this predictive technology out into the real world. So when we talk about using these hydrologic simulators to predict flooding or drought risk or the water needs of crops in the agricultural landscapes, it's not just the Hydrogeosphere simulator that we're incorporating. We're coupling our simulation technology with weather forecasting technology, which is getting better and better. Right now we're using 7-day forecasts, 16-day forecasts, 32-day forecasts to produce skillful assessments of water resource conditions. We're assimilating remote sensing information. So there's quite a number of satellites and terrestrial sensors that are out in the landscape that are helping to inform the current conditions of the agricultural crop production zones around the world. So we pull that information in to make our forecasting system smarter. We also pull in water management regimes. So as irrigation reservoirs, groundwater pumps, dams, etc., are actively managed in the landscape, we pull that information in to our simulators. We take that into account when we produce a forward-looking prediction of water conditions across the agricultural landscape. We send that package of information to the cloud for the simulation computing, and then in the end, we get a hydrologic forecast. And we have a number of different ways of delivering these forecasts to clients. So right now, we've got a prototype system running across about 85,000 square kilometers in southern Ontario. We're deploying it through partners out into the Canadian prairies, and we're actively looking at extending it down into the U.S. agricultural landscape as well. So this is a technology that's readily scaled across large areas to provide localized insights. And just here as an example, I'm giving you kind of an inside look at our dashboarding system where we deliver results directly to clients so we can provide things like surface water flow rates over the next week or month at given locations. We can provide access to soil saturation or soil moisture predictions at given locations. We can give users access to groundwater levels, and then give them map-based perspectives on how things like soil moisture, groundwater recharge, groundwater discharge are varying across the landscape. And just as an example here, this particular watershed that runs as a standalone simulation. This is covering about 9,000 square kilometers. So again, there's a lot of agricultural real estate that are wrapped up in our simulation domains. So just to close off the presentation with some strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So really, Aquanty is very strong on the technical side of the business. We have incredible talent. Many of us are cross-appointed at universities, so we're working with leading edge developments in our field. We've got very strong intellectual property and a software archive to draw on. Our reputation is globally recognized, and I would say we're one of the top water resources technology companies. Although small from a technical perspective, we're right up with the best of the best. Weaknesses: we're a bootstrap company. We're basically employee owned. Our marketing reach has been limited, so up until now, we've really focused on technology development and proofing out the science and developing our tools. So we're now just at the point where these tools are ready to go out into the market. We haven't really established the internal marketing capabilities yet, so we're looking for partners and other ways to collaborate with end users who can draw insights from the data we produce. From an opportunity perspective, I think we're at a very sweet spot. There's increased recognition around the world that climate change is going to induce increased levels of erratic water resources conditions, and that's particularly impactful to the agricultural communities. So there are a wide range of different entities looking for advanced analytics to help manage their water resources to support their crop production or other agricultural activities. And this can extend all the way from individual farmers up to logistics companies, seed companies, fertilizer companies, and logistics companies. So we're working to plug in with a lot of these larger companies that can potentially draw on our insights and not necessarily use our dashboards, but ingest our data into their own internal systems. One of the primary threats for a small company that's very technically strong but not yet large on the marketing front is that we have to get established as one of the key players in this emerging market of forecasting services. We know we have the best technology, but along with the technology comes the need to kind of cement ourselves in that facet of the market. So we have to work at that before the market matures. So we don't want to see the market mature without us playing a key role. So with that, I'll pass it back to Barrington, and thank you for your attention.
Sean Thompson. Sean is an experienced drug development and business development executive in both big and small biopharma. He has advised many biotech companies in BD and clinical research. Prior to Psigryph, he was VP Corporate Development for YM Biosciences, now Gilead, leading negotiating teams on out-licensing transactions, evaluating potential in-licensing, and M&A transactions. He previously headed clinical research for YM, leading the company through successful studies globally. He previously held clinical development and marketing positions with Roche and GlaxoSmithKline.
Great. Thank you for the invitation to present today. Psigryph is a food tech for health company, and we are addressing the health of plants, animals, humans, and the planet with our technology. So every year, the world spends $1.5 billion on nitrogen feed supplementation for livestock. This is meant to help them grow protein more efficiently. And it's fed to them in the forms that you see there by farmers. So the problem is that about 85% of this supplementation is not absorbed by the animals. It passes through them and is excreted in the urine, feces, pollutes the soil, the water, and the air, ultimately creating greenhouse gas. And we believe that this situation is not necessary. Our solution is called NanoPect. We liken it to UPS for living cells. So we're the packaging, the box, if you will, that goes around the molecules that are to be delivered inside of a cell where they do their work. The technology itself is derived from sour cherries that grow here in the province of Ontario. They are subjected to a proprietary process developed by my scientific co-founder at the University of Guelph to create the nanoparticles, little spheres that you see there, little balls, and elongated nano fibers. And so from there, we can attach molecules to these materials to create products for agriculture, for food, and even for the healthcare pharmaceutical market. So what differentiates Nanopect from other nanotechnologies that are used in a similar fashion is the temperature stability. I think most of us are very familiar with the cold storage required for the mRNA vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer, which use a lipid nanoparticle. So our material doesn't need the cold storage. We have a much higher loading capability. And our material itself is anti-inflammatory, which means it doesn't promote disease, as opposed to lipids, which do. So more specifically in this first application that I'm describing, the nitrogen cycle that you see there presented on the left is what we are proposing to interrupt. And I should mention that this nitrogen cycle also exists for plants as well, because they are fed nitrogen as fertilizer. So, but in the case of the cows and their feed, we can take the absorption from 15% up to 80%, which means that we can feed 5 animals for every one that's fed with a given volume of nitrogen today, and reduce the deposition of nitrogen in the soil by 76% or more. So we reduce the cost of intakes, inputs, and reduce the environmental pollution from farming. So how do we know that this technology works? We have a product here called Cholestalo, which is the same sort of idea where we use the nanoparticles to deliver nutrients from food. So broccoli, almond, turmeric, various components are added to this the nanoparticles to make the final material. And we fed this to mice twice daily in their water. I should mention also this product is going to be launched in the United States this year as a dietary supplement. So when we fed this material to the mice, you can see here in the normal mice, their cholesterol dropped by 50% and their triglycerides dropped by 14%. The obese mice have a gene knocked out, which causes them to become obese on a normal diet. That effective weight gain was completely blocked by the addition of cholesterol to their water. Their cholesterol dropped by 60% and their triglycerides by 45%. So what I'm trying to get you to make an intellectual leap with me here. From these mice data, we're going to do the exact same thing with nitrogen in cows. We can do the same thing to take out insects as a biopesticide. We can deliver nutrients to humans to supplement their diet and even make fertilizers that are much more efficient than the ones we use today. In terms of commercial traction, we are working on this animal nutrition project as a result of discussions with large global agri-food companies. And the biopesticide, we're delivering RNA as a pesticide, so it's very specific to the insect we're taking out, and not toxic to anything else in the environment. So we're working on that with an American company. So the company makes money through R&D contracts, as I've described, to create novel nanopacked cargo combinations. We create novel IP in that process, and then license the technology to the company that has given us the cargo to deliver. And then we are going to direct to consumer online launch Cholestalo this year, along with other products that we have in our pipeline. So the markets for the technology are gigantic, tens to hundreds of billions of dollars. We're starting with agriculture and food, and then eventually we'll move into pharmaceuticals and more broadly into gene therapy. My background, I have my undergrad in science from the University of Waterloo. I went into pharmaceutical research after undergrad at GSK, Roche and Wyeth Biosciences, which was acquired by Gilead Sciences 10 years ago. My co-founder is Gopi Palliath, a longtime professor at the University of Guelph. And we have a number of advisors in legal, business, consumer products, products as well. So Diane has ex-Pepsi and Frito-Lay. We are in the market to raise $10 million to launch our dietary supplement, scale our manufacturing, and augment our R&D capabilities and expand our patent portfolio globally. So just a summary of the technology and its applications, number of products in food and consumer, agriculture is a major focus, crop protection, and then eventually pharmaceuticals. So I will stop there and thank you for your attention.
Now an intro for our moderator. Tom Hunter is the partner in Gowling WLG's Waterloo Region Office and practices in the area of corporate, commercial, and technology law. He is the former co-chair of the firm's National Technology Law Group and a past department head of the Waterloo Region Business Law Group. Tom has been recognized as a leading practitioner in his field by Best Lawyers in Canada and the Canadian Legal Lexpert Directory. In the 2021 edition of Best Lawyers in Canada, Tom was named Lawyer of the Year for Corporate Law. Over to you, Tom.
Great. Thank you, Barrington. And thanks to the presenters today, and thanks to the CSE for providing this opportunity to introduce these three exciting companies to the public. And they are exciting companies. They're what I call double dividend companies. These are companies that not only can provide a financial return, but provide a huge social benefit to the planet. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk to all three. We have a company in Aduro that takes plastic waste from the agricultural industry and turns it into useful products, oil, fuel, and as a result, that waste doesn't continue to pollute our environment. We have a company, Aquanty, that predicts drought, predicts flood risk, provides farmers with important data that they can use to manage their operations. And a third company, Psigryph, that uses its technology to reduce greenhouse gases from farms and cows and increases nutrients available to crops. So all three companies do wonderful things that have applications across the planet. So thank you for taking the time today, gentlemen, to visit the CSE and participate in Tech Tuesdays. So the first question I had is for Aquanty. Steve, you mentioned the predictive capability of the technology. How far ahead of an event could you predict it? So if the technology told you that there was going to be a drought in a specific geographic area or flooding, do you give the farmer 2 days notice or 2 minutes notice? Because if it's 2 minutes, it's not going to be terribly helpful.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. And really, we're the beneficiaries of increased capabilities to provide weather forecasts. So one of the primary drivers for the hydrologic forecast is the weather forecast. And currently, we see good skill on our surface water flow predictions and soil moisture predictions out 7 days. We can predict like the forthcoming event. We'll know it's coming, upwards of maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks out. But as we get closer, we can kind of constrain the error bars on how big that event could be. With our groundwater forecasting, we're seeing skills that look out at least 20 to 30 days because of the latency in the groundwater response compared to that of the faster moving surface water system. And we're actively researching how to do seasonal forecasts where we can generate predictions in April and May that carry through to August and September.
So it seems to me that would address the drought and the wildfires that we've seen in different parts of the planet.
Yeah, and I didn't mention it, but we're actually working with forestry agencies around the world to use this technology to
Excellent.
predict forest fire risks as well.
Oh, that's exciting. Sean, Psigryph, I was surprised to hear that the nanoparticles, nanofibers, come from sour cherries. So I'm assuming your solution is all green and all clean. Can you tell us about the research background to come up with a solution that comes from nature?
Yeah, well, the solution is green and is clean, and it started from my co-founder's interest in Ayurveda. So he's originally from India. Ayurveda is an ancient practice of using plants for health, and he was researching. So he got a PhD in biochemistry and then started to look at what's happening at the cellular and molecular level with Ayurvedic products. In the course of his research, he started to look for Ayurvedic principles in plants, foods that grow here in Ontario, closer to home. So he originally started with red wine grapes and found the nanoparticles in red wine grapes, then tried blueberry, tried cranberries, sour cherries, and eventually settled in on sour cherries because they are very productive and they're low cost and produced in high quantities. And it really is sort of the Goldilocks fruit to produce these nanomaterials. So the existence of these nanoparticles and nanofibers was found accidentally in the course of that research, and he's since optimize the process to force the self-assembly of these nanomaterials from sour cherries.
That's incredible when you think about it, that nature has helped provide this solution. But of course, it's the process that Psigryph has created that provides the potency and the ability to provide this solution. Is that process protected by the company?
Yes, so we filed patents on the technology at the end of 2018. The patents cover the composition of matter. So these nanomaterials were not previously described in the literature. The process to make them, as well as various uses. And those patents are undergoing prosecution in every major and secondary market that would be of interest to agriculture, food, or pharma.
Well, that should give investors some comfort, given that you've protected the solution. Ofer, with respect to Aduro and its process, the other two companies are spin-outs out of universities, University of Waterloo with Aquanty and University of Guelph with Psigryph. What's the origination and of the technology that Aduro uses to permit you to take plastic and convert it to useful products? Where does that technology originate from?
Wow. The technology conceived originally, probably maybe the father of it would be a guy named Ofer Vicus at the University of Alberta about 20 years ago. And at that point, we contemplate and operate with water to upgrade crude oil. Dr. Ofer Vicus did not see the whole picture. I mean, I say that the mother of the technology and the one that carried it fast forward is our CTO, who is a very smart, capable guy. His name is Mark Trickstead, who's been busy looking at, asking simple questions about that seems to be hiding beneath some conditions that everyone blamed to happen falsely. So in other words, when you press water to certain conditions and you create all kind of issues, everyone blames it into the type and conditions of the water, say supercritical. Mark noticed that when you mix water at supercritical conditions with foreigner material, it's no longer supercritical, the conditions are changed. And that really opened the platform to see, to investigate really a lot of applications beneath it to understand the mechanism. And you mentioned about the technologies that are coming from nature. In the heavy oil stream, we are using, metals that consider to be really the metals that are embedded in the heavy oil. So they were considered to be a lot of, the bad boys, and we are using them to advance ourselves. So a little bit with the help of nature, if you will. In the renewable sector, we're using our glycerol to consume, and we consume it as hydrogen replacement. So no need for hydrogen. And so over the years, the same mechanism, of course, is applied for plastics. And within that realm, it took us about 10 years under the radar to work and conquer and understand the mechanism in each sector to this day.
Very interesting. That's interesting also that it originated also at a university. 20 years ago, you've been at this for
10 years. Yeah, I should give credit to, the one that noticed, maybe Dr. Nubet Berkovich noticed that the chemistry is not happening as everyone else blamed it. That happens in the university. But really the power to understand and investigate and ask the real question is the CTO that has been carried it for the last 10 years and asked, kind of looked at this and asked simple questions that other people seems to blame everything else apart from the mechanism that actually occur.
So I wanted to ask all three companies, because it's wonderful to have innovative, perhaps revolutionary technology, but it has to result in a solution, a product or service that the market accepts and embraces. And I wanted to ask each of you what the market is telling you about your solution. What are you hearing from strategic partners and potential customers in your particular vertical? And why don't we start with you, Sean?
Yeah, so very important question, because we started the company in 2018, beginning of 2018, and at the time, we were thinking about the food, the dietary supplement or food ingredients. And obviously, with my background in pharmaceuticals, I saw applications for the technology in pharma. We went to a conference near the end of 2019 where we were presenting the food opportunity, but it was an agriculture-focused conference. And at that conference, we started to get approached by agriculture companies. So neither of us were thinking about the application in agriculture and the need. So we really pivoted the company as a result of a biopesticide company approaching us and getting us to think about delivery of RNA and the whole delivery of gene therapies came from those conversations. And the agri-food application also came, not from that conference, but from subsequent conversations with big companies. So we have, I'd say 5 of the top 20 big ag companies that we've spoken to that have given us ideas on how to deploy the technology that would be a benefit to them. And so we're pursuing those projects as our R&D platform to give them the data that they're seeking to go to the next step with us.
Excellent. Steve, I imagine if I was a farmer with hundreds of acres, weather would be at the top of my mind every single day. And so I'm wondering what your customers think about Aquanty's ability to help me understand what weather is on the horizon, no pun intended, and how to manage my land as a result of your predictions. What engagement have you had with your customers?
So the individual farmers are encouraging us to scale out the platform so it can be basically deployed anywhere in the agricultural landscape. And they're using it to anticipate the field trafficability. So looking at soil moisture conditions, you get a sense of when they can get on the field with their equipment, and looking out through longer time intervals, they're getting a sense of what their potential yields can be. And then that is translating into how much inputs they're willing to put onto the field. And with things like nitrogen and phosphorus being so expensive nowadays, the more insight they can get as to whether or not those investments in crop inputs are going to pay off for them can help them improve the bottom line. And beyond the individual producers, we've got the insurance companies who can use our longer term forecasting to manage their risk portfolios and provide updates to their clients. So the individual insurance companies can provide updates on the risk profile to their clients, and then the clients can move at-risk assets. Or for longer term, larger, like say a drought, for instance, people can use the forecasting technology to get a sense of what agricultural feed production could be in certain regions of the country, in which case they can balance their need to potentially buy hay, or the opportunity to sell hay or other livestock feeds into different parts of the country, just as an example. And then there's logistics companies, obviously, who have to manage their transport assets well in advance of the harvest in order to be able to move the harvest to ports and transit terminals, so they can use these types of platforms to get kind of advanced insight on where they need to have asset placement during the harvest to be able to move all the product from the producers.
I hadn't thought of the insurance company interest, but of course that makes perfect sense. And there's a lot of big players in agriculture, and not the least of which is government that plays a strong role in agriculture. Ofer, what are your customers saying? And I noticed in your presentation there are some very, very big players in the space, but you carved out a niche dealing with smaller amounts of feedstock. Maybe you could tell us about how the customers in that niche are reacting to your solution.
So the solution the technology has huge applications, and it answers to large and small, basically. So you can do that. I mean, our CTO was recently presenting the technology in Houston. Soon enough, one of the largest ethylene producer came in with an email naming the technology as a holy grail of the industry.
That's pretty high praise.
That's high price. We have been talking to organizations that are using competitive technologies. They're confirming that they scouted more than 100 technologies and haven't seen something of our offering. And recently this is more published with Brightland in the Netherlands, where we operate to establish a new entity and do partners. This is the chemical hub that is operate and look for technologies, scout for technologies like us and invite them to do pilots there. They have a lot of services. They confirm they haven't seen anything like what we are proposing for the last 100, let's say 20 or 30 years. I mean, I guess what for the small customers, and this goes back to the opportunities on hand. Well, rather than produce build a large centralized location that has to deal with massive amount of issues, when you do things in smaller scale, you are able to solve a lot of those problems. Probably the product will be a little bit more unified. You can do something with it. And if you scatter it across the territories, then you build this network, and you know who is doing what, and you can work around your way. Saying all that, the technology is able to operate on the large impurities as well. So there's a huge amount of capability. We're just investigating small and large, and we have of both that are answering and coming into discussion.
What are the key milestones you're looking at in the next quarter or the next 6 to 12 months for Aduro?
So for the investors, we are looking to engage with 1 or 2 customers with the intention of doing some demonstration, and this will be a paid demonstration. And the investors could see that once we do that, so not just the scientific validation, but the customers will validate the interest that we're talking about and pursuing and presenting to the investors. We want to be with a pilot that is capable, I'll say, semi-commercial performance in less than 18 months. And so we invite the investors, we thank the investors that put the trust, and we invite the investors that look at us just to monitor and look at the news and make their own decision. Take a look at what we've been doing in the past, and we always deliver to what we said, and that's our intention going forward.
Excellent, thank you. Of course, always on investors' minds is how you make money. And you can do wonderful things for the planet, but they want to know that you're going to be profitable as a result. What's the revenue model that Aquanty is using, Steve? How do you make money off your platform?
So we're providing access to the data feeds as a subscription service, and it can be accessed directly to the dashboards that we provide. So relatively easy to use dashboards, direct access for producers, or we provide access to APIs. So basically automated data access feeds where larger companies can consume our data within one of their own platforms and use our information then to help guide their own insights. So that's really, it's going to be a subscription model for these types of forecasting services as we move further towards actually getting a lot of market uptake. And the nice thing about that is it's highly scalable.
Right. The SaaS model, of course, is very well known to the investment community in technology. Sean, I don't think that's Psigryph's model, but because you're, of course, in some cases selling product. But maybe you could comment on Psigryph's financial model.
Yeah, so we're both a B2B and a B2C company, and so we'll sell the dietary supplements online in the US because we have a finished product and we can sell that ourselves online. Now in the ag space, it's really the UPS model where we're delivering cargo of interest to another company. And one of the reasons we focused in on nitrogen is that Cargill, the largest meat processor in the world, they have a stated goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions throughout their supply chain by 30% by 2030. So if our feed reduces the greenhouse gas emissions from farms, from livestock production, then those farmers will be much better able to sell their product to Cargill because they're driving that change throughout the supply chain. But we will be distributing that through more than likely through a large agri-food company that will license our technology and we'll have a supply agreement with them and a royalty on sales.
Right. So there's a reseller involved in that model. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be big companies because the market is so large and so global that the distribution of a big company is very useful to us in that scenario.
Right. That makes a lot of sense in the case of Psigryph. Ofer, what about the revenue model for Aduro? What does that look like for you?
Oh, we have a hard 3 years or maybe 2 years to build a system. The model is a licensing-based model. If anyone that will download the presentation, they'll see that we have created this revenue that is built on mainly on licensing and we took in this particular case, we took all of the interest that we had at the time from different companies. And so we translated to different sizes of operations. Some of them will be in the 20, 30 tons a day, and some of them will be in the hundreds, 150 tons a day. Overall, we are looking at the licensing, but we are open to also different types of models. It really, since the technology has so much capabilities, it may be that we'll meet customers with different needs, and we may want to enter into business such as profit sharing or build on operators, the one that we're doing with Switch Energy, that give us better access and visibility to a particular market.
Excellent. Well, I think it's good news for the planet and good news for investors to meet you gentlemen today. And I want to thank you very much. This is really exciting to meet three double dividend companies who are doing good things for the planet and are spinouts of universities. So thank you for your time today and participating with CSE on Tech Tuesdays. Thanks very much.
Well, that was truly wonderful. Thank you to our presenters, Stephen Frey, Director of Research Services at Aquanty, Ofer Vicus, CEO and co-founder of Aduro Clean Technologies, Inc., listed on the CSE, and Sean Thompson, CEO, co-founder of Psigryph. Thank you to our moderator, Tom Hunter, partner at Gowling, and to Merck Guller from Purves Redmond for making these introductions. Thank you to the people who have worked behind the scenes, Anil Mall, James Black, Melissa Robertson, and of course, the founder and creator of Tech Tuesday, Mark Francis. Lastly, thank you to your attendees for taking a slice out of your day to learn and support the companies on Tech Tuesday. Go to the company's websites to learn more about them and their projects. If you have a lead for them, please do connect. Next Tuesday, we'll be bringing you another company showcase. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe, click like on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And may you have continued success in expanding your business.